Hey folks, today's video is brought to you by the kind people at Wealthfront. You know, investing doesn't have to be a roller coaster. Sure, those high risk day trades can be fun in the short term, but if you want to grow your net worth, there is decades of history showing that a low cost, diversified index portfolio is the way to go. And that sounds complicated, especially to an idiot like me who only knows cars. But trust me, it's not. You just need the right people helping you out. That's where Wealthfront comes in. Wealthfront makes investing easy no matter what your level of knowledge about finance is. All you need is just $500 and a few minutes of your time, and Wealthfront will take care of the rest. The management fee is 0.25% of your portfolio. So if you run a $10,000 portfolio with the $5,000 promotion that they're running with the link in our bio, your monthly management fee is only going to be about $1. Once you open and fund your account, Wealthfront's software, which is designed by PhDs, will manage it for you and employ strategies like rebalancing to keep you at your desired risk threshold and look for opportunities to lower your tax bill through a service called tax loss harvesting. Wealthfront offers a wide range of investment accounts, the most popular being a taxable account and an IRA retirement account. Wealthfront can create a portfolio based on a risk tolerance that you set, but if you're into specific type of investing, say healthcare, technology, cars, you can manage those types of investments on your own as well. Here's a Wealthfront demo so you can see what their clients actually experience for demonstration purposes only. So hit the link in the description and get your first $5,000 managed for free with just a 0.25% monthly management fee after that. And thanks to Wealthfront for sponsoring today's video. Hey folks, welcome to the new Bronco. How exciting. Everyone wants to see the new Bronco. So we got one, and it's a two-door. It's in a great red color. I really am feeling it in the two-door. I think it looks a lot better in the two-door than it does in the four-door.
It's a really good looking proportions. Yeah.
And in fact, as I was reading the four-door, it doesn't even have that much more rear leg room. What it has is a wider three-person rear seat instead of this narrower two-person rear seat, and then a lot more cargo room. That's really what you get with the four-door versus the two-door. You ask me, the footprint of this thing is great. Great for the city, nice and compact, easy to maneuver, fabulous stuff. So Bronco comes in like a million different configurations.
6 trim levels plus the first edition if you count that, which sold out immediately, but there will forever be at least 6 trim levels.
Right, and so it would be impossible for us to cover all of them in one video. What we are going to do is 2 videos. I'll drive on the road today, because how this drives on the road is very important. And then we're going to drive it on the trail. But I can't get 6 Bronco press cars. So if you want to really dig into your specific trim level that you're looking for, you know, you may have to do some of your own research. Okay, so from cheapest to most expensive, you've got the base at $30K, the Big Bend at $34K, the Black Diamond at $37.5, Outer Banks at $40.5, and we're in an Outer Banks. Badlands at $43.5, Wild Track at $48.5, and then the first edition at $58. So the way I understand it is, base through Outer Banks adds luxury features and slightly better wheels and tires and stuff like that. Then when you get to Badlands, you start getting the more hardcore off-road bits. Right. And then the Wild Track gets like the disconnecting sway bar, the locking front diff, and the Bilstein shocks, and then the really big tires, right?
Yeah, and then you can also add, like there's the Sasquatch package, which is very famous. You can add that to any of the trim levels.
Okay.
Like this car, for example, one thing it has is more goat modes. So the base one comes with 5 goat modes. I think this has 6, goes up to 7. This also has the upgraded 4-wheel drive system, so it has 4 high. The
and
regular
4
one
auto.
And 4 auto. The regular 4-wheel drive it comes with, that it all comes with standard, does not have the 4 auto setting, and it has a different transfer case.
Right, and this one also has the optional 2.7 liter twin turbo V6 with a 10-speed automatic. You can get a base 2.3, which is sort of like the Focus RS motor, and you can get that with a manual.
Right.
Having now driven this one and only this one, I wouldn't want one with less power.
Yeah, and what I read, I think David Tracy did a good breakdown on this. the small engine with the manual gets worse miles per gallon in highway than it does in city.
Right.
Because it's kind of overstressed.
Right.
So, depending on how much commuting you're going to be doing or how long you intend to road trip the thing, like you might actually even out the money.
In my experience, when going on a road trip, a bigger engine that is understressed will return better fuel economy than a smaller engine that's zunged to the red line all the time, especially if you're climbing mountains.
Yeah.
Going over mountain passes, okay? So this motor, the 2.7 liter twin turbo 6, 330 horsepower at 5,250 RPM, 415 pound-feet at 3,100 RPM. That's a bunch, right?
Yeah.
You got a solid rear axle, control arm fronts, 0 to 60 in the sixes. The quarter mile is 15.0 at 91, which was what my 94 Mustang GT ran stock.
Really?
Yep, that's exactly the same. And we've got the hardtop, removable roof, removable doors.
Yep.
And then there's a whole bunch of neat storage compartments and places to put your stuff, and a whole lot of nostalgia.
Yes.
So let's see how it drives on the road. What I like about it immediately, it's gutsy.
Yeah.
It's got good power. It's got good torque. Now, we're going to hook it into a corner, and not terrible.
I mean, it drives, it feels close to a crossover, like an early kind of crossover or SUV, which is good, because obviously compared to the Wrangler, it does not feel anything like those vehicles.
Right. This is body on frame, but it has rack and pinion steering.
Yep.
It has decent geometries. It has a really, in my opinion, really nicely tuned suspension that rides well, and it actually handles pretty well too. And this one has, and forgive me, I don't know when they stop measuring tires in millimeters and start measuring them in inches, 255, 70, 18s all around, which I think on the trail will probably prove to be just fine.
Yeah, I think for what we're doing, the trail we go on, and for most people, that tire's fine.
Yeah.
You can get 35s on this. That was a big story because some people need more tire, they need more clearance, etc., etc., and it also is an inch bigger than what you can get on the Wrangler in stock forms.
It's got to be more.
It's got to be more.
One
right?
more.
It's got to win.
One more. The sound is pretty nice. It's got kind of a throaty little sound.
Yeah.
And I've been impressed. I've only been driving it for 2 days, but I've been impressed at the programming of the gearbox. It doesn't really hunt. I think because this has a lot of torque for a relatively light vehicle, I mean, compared to an F-150 or something, it doesn't hunt for gears all the time. It chooses a gear that is really connected to your throttle position, and then it sticks with it. It doesn't try to figure it out,
And that may be software upgrades, because I know when I drove a Ranger with the 10-speed and the 2.3,
awful, right?
It was all over the place.
Yeah.
So hopefully they've improved that across all the models, but it's definitely a lot better in this car.
Yeah, the Ranger with the 10-speed, the program was terrible. This is much more settled. It's much more just choosing the gear, and that could have to do with the fact that this engine makes a lot more torque lower, so it's not always trying to get it up in the revs as much, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if you guys can hear it at home. Probably the worst thing about driving this car is the wind noise. We have the most insulated roof, I believe, that you can buy. The hard roof with the additional insulation up here. Above 60, it's loud.
Yeah, it is.
Really loud.
At first it sounded like tire noise, but it's not. It's all up here, and it's just the wind going across it.
Yeah, these tires, which I believe are Bridgestone Duelers, are actually the tires themselves are pretty quiet. I thought I heard some tire noise the first day. It turns out it was the lane departure thing being overactive, so I had to turn that crap off. But yeah, that's not good. We don't want any of that stuff in this thing. Especially because it's not hard to keep a car in a lane. It's not hard to keep this car in a lane, which compared to a Wrangler is a real thing. The Wrangler's sloppy, recirculating ball steering means you're moving the steering wheel a lot, sometimes just to keep the thing going straight.
Yeah, it's like watching a black and white movie where they're just moving the wheel to imitate driving, but in the Wrangler, like, you really are having to do that. And it's gotten better with every generation, but driving this, you go, oh, this is what you want when you're driving on the road. And I understand there's a big debate between IFS or solid front axle for in the off-road community, but driving to the obstacles or to the trail, this is a much better experience.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, unless you're building a full-on specialty vehicle, you have to just accept the fact that even a fairly hardcore off-roader is spending at least 80% of their time on pavement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know what the radio's saying.
In the family. Well, on my dad's side.
What's happening here?
Audio 0, but apparently
I
not.
just turned the volume off. It just started connected to my CarPlay somehow.
Well, let's not forget that there are King of Hammers teams that run independent front suspension and do really well, and also solid axle
too.
So it seems like
in 1,000 feet.
Oh my God, my CarPlay. I will say that the CarPlay on this is good. It hasn't had as many hiccups as the one on my. Just turn off Bluetooth. How about that? It's not as hiccupy as the one on my Mach-E, but I have had a couple little hiccups with this actually. I like the 12-inch screen. It's legible. We've got scroll knobs for tuning and volume. That's good.
Yeah.
And some basic
5.9 miles. You'll arrive at Lake Pier
and some basic buttons for shut up CarPlay. Some basic buttons for your main AC controls, which is good, as well as for the differential controls, which is good.
I mean, I like these. There's like rubberized depress buttons, which
they're
are
cool.
awesome. You can also get aux switches up here, but
that's cool.
If you're going to be doing outdoor activities, maybe wearing gloves or whatever, I'm so glad that Bronco, Wrangler, and 4Runner keep the chunky knobs for things you use a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Regarding the nostalgia, aspect of it, I think they're successful here. I think they've not made it corny nostalgia. It looks good.
Absolutely. I think it is a great looking vehicle. The Outer Banks one gets the body color fender flares.
Yeah.
This
has optional.
This has optional ones. If you get like the Badlands I drove before, or some of the more off-road ready ones have the plastic fenders, but that's because they're wider, and they also want you to be able to pull them off when you break them, or take them off for articulation reasons, which looks fine, but the body-colored ones look really good.
They do look nice.
And the rest of the car, I think, is a near-perfect execution of a retro design and look that is brought to like the modern time.
Right.
Really
these oh shit handles are the best oh shit handles I've ever felt. They've got a nice textured rubber grip.
Yep.
And they have the molded pistol grips like a Beretta Model 92. Which I'm not a gun nut, but the Beretta 92 has a really good molded pistol grip that I really like.
So the reason they did them down here instead of on the A-pillar or the roof is they realized, well, if the car is on an obstacle and tilted a lot and you get down off of it, it may be too hard to reach the roof, especially if you're a shorter driver. So having something you can grab lower down in the vehicle will be much more helpful.
Yeah, it's a really cool design. I really like it. But like what I really, its squareness is working so well for me. Like now that like everything is an egg, just having a new square option that doesn't look awful, you know what I mean? And
this is the resistance.
Yeah, because my wife is always lamenting the lack of square vehicles. She really likes a square car, and so the fact that this just exists and doesn't drive terrible is such a win.
Yeah.
We're up here in the canyons. We don't expect anybody to be mobbing a canyon in a Bronco. We don't, okay? At most, you might be towing your boat up here to the lake, which this will do 3,500 pounds. So you could do a small boat on a trailer, you could do a Miata track car or something that ilk, and you could do flat towing if you had to, or, move your stuff, that kind of thing. So, but when you're on normal roads, even curving normal roads, it drives very normal. It doesn't drive like you're in a super trucky off-road.
Yeah, you don't worry or when you have to go down the mountain after going skiing or doing the trail or whatever, you're not going to be thinking, oh god, this is a stressful situation. I have to like manage the wheel the whole time. I mean, it just drives. It just drives, which is not a very specific thing to say, but if you've driven a Wrangler or talked to people that have driven them, you have to manage it the whole way, and it's bumping around, and it's just not a good thing to drive on the road. Or
even the last generation G-Wagon. The last generation G-Wagon had that same recirculating ball steering. The current generation G-Wagon has rack and pinion steering, and it makes all the difference in the world. 95% of the time. And it's not like rack and pinion steering is bad for off-roading. It's fine for off-roading. No one cares.
Yeah, recirculating ball has almost an inaccuracy to it. There's like an amount of play, and because of that, you are constantly trying to find the center of the wheel and manage that as you go down the road.
And also, you have to fight wind more. It's just so much more steering needs to be done all the time.
Yeah. Plus, this with independent front suspension, now the wheels can move independently, so the bumps don't upset it as much in the corner or in a straightaway. They don't change the alignment as much. It's just an easier thing to go down the road in.
Right. And you drove. You went on the launch. Right. Yeah. You went on the launch, and you drove one that had the Sasquatch stuff, right?
I did.
The big tires.
I drove a 2-door that had the Sasquatch package. A little more road noise from the tires, but really drove down the highway just as well as this one does.
But the one thing you mentioned to me when I got this, you said, "Look out for this thing. Don't hit the wipers. The camera's on the outside." The one.
What did we get sprayed with? You're right.
I don't know, but we caught something, but but I almost did the same thing. You said when you get the Bronco, put it into a corner, and then at the mid corner, hit the brakes hard because it has a strange behavior. What was that behavior?
So, yeah, as you said, I was going in a corner about 65 miles an hour, curvy road. I tapped the brakes, and it dove toward the inside of the corner. It pulled to the inside of the corner, almost as if the only brake being activated was that inside front tire. And
I tried to do that.
And see?
Did it do it?
Yeah.
Oh, it did. Okay.
The corner I did it in Texas was not as tight as this one.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm having to exaggerate it more. And like you said, that one had the bigger tires. But some other journalists
notice it as much.
Confirmed it with me. They're like, yes, I also noticed that in a corner you tap the brakes, it lunges towards the inside of that corner. It's just something to be aware of. You're driving a compromised vehicle. This is not a corner carver. It's not a street truck. So you just have to learn how to drive it because it's got some things.
With these 18-inch wheels and 70 series tires, I tried to do that, and it never did it to the point where I was like, oh, that's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it does it like a little bit, but I didn't find it to be like an offensive oversight. But I noticed a lot of people mentioned it with the big tires. So it could be that those bigger wheels really exaggerate that.
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of sidewall flex maybe, or whatever. Or were you guys running down pressures because you were going off-roading?
Not to my knowledge, because we picked the cars up in Austin, and they were like, "You're doing the street drive." Those were not the off-road vehicles.
Oh, okay.
But it could be the soft tires. Somebody, you can comment if you know if it's the larger tires or what. It was just a thing to be aware of in a car that otherwise I was like, "Oh, this is just doing what I expect."
Yeah.
Great. And all of a sudden I hit the brakes. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Now it reminded me.
So far, I've only had it for a couple days, and we're going to go an off-road video in a couple more days, and maybe we'll come up with something else. So I suggest watching both videos. But the only two real downsides to this vehicle that I've found at all, really, is the wind noise, which, maybe that bothers you, maybe it doesn't. It's not. I don't think it's as bad as a Wrangler. I think that's a little louder, but it's still, Bluetooth conversations at highway speeds might be tricky.
Yeah.
And the big tailgate. The tailgate opens horizontally, just like Wrangler, just like G-Wagon. But unlike Wrangler and G-Wagon, I measured, the Wrangler's tailgate is 42 inches across. This is 50.5. 8 inches, which when swung open, you've got, in the short wheelbase, it's in the long wheelbase, imagine swinging open an extra 4 feet of tailgate. Now, some people go, yeah, I park it nose in. Well, okay, but sometimes you have to parallel park. Sometimes you can't park nose in. Sometimes you have a garage that doesn't have all the room in the world. With a regular crossover or a sedan, my Mach-E, let's use a Ford crossover, right? I can have it parked less than a foot from the garage door and open the tailgate and load in fully with the garage door closed. With this, 4 feet away, and it made impact with the door. So
yeah, well, it's something that if you have a removable roof, you can't have a hatch, right? So the Wrangler has it too, but we just passed a Wrangler, and you can see that the tailgate goes in from the tail lights and the fenders, probably to help with that kind of ingress-egress.
Right. Now, is it a deal breaker? Probably not. It's probably not a deal breaker, but it's something you might not notice until you actually have paid for the car and get it home. And if it annoys you on day one, believe me, it'll annoy you on day 365 and on day 12,000.
Yeah.
You know, so we're just letting you know.
And additionally, you can't open the hatch without opening the lower door.
All the way. Almost
Right,
all the way.
Right, you have to open the door all the way. You can't open the
Yeah.
hatch separately, and it's not just because of the spare tire, it just won't let you do it.
Right. So you can't just flip open the thing and throw stuff over. You have to also
flip,
get
then
it
close.
open, and that's a usability issue. That may really affect how you use the vehicle. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty minor thing in the grand scheme of vehicles. What a nice package!
Yeah,
I mean, what a nice package.
They did a really good job.
I'm stoked to go wheeling in it.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
It's good at it.
Yeah,
It's
and
real
I
good.
want to show that you don't need the Sasquatch package, you know, to get up the trail effectively.
Right. Absolutely.
So thanks for watching. We're going to have another off-road video coming with this car. Zach also did the Bronco on Rated. If you want to see
Check that out.
He'll link that in the video description here for you. Rated for Haggerty is his other show. And thanks for letting us have it. Ford, thanks for you for watching. We'll see you later. And remember, always fight your tickets. Use code TST10 on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.